Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and we've got the whole crew back this week as Joe is back and Jason has returned from the 1 week IL and his back is feeling better and he is raving and ranting. And boy, he's got a good one for you later, guys. How are you guys doing? What's up, Jason?
Hey guys, it's good to be back. I missed you boys. I'm very excited to be back, and I just cannot wait to get to this later as we talk about a few things from the umpiring side.
Yeah, the thing that makes baseball both wonderful and alternatively incredibly frustrating all at the same time, the umpires. Joe, how about you, bud? How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to recover from the disappointment of the last week. We'll get more into that later. But yeah, can't complain too much.
Yeah, it was definitely the last week was not a banner week for any of our three teams, as we will touch upon later. There's not really a whole hell of a lot for any of us to talk about from the series from this past week. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Joe, since I have you unmuted right now, what are you drinking tonight?
I am going back. I'm switching off of beer. I'm going back to Evan Williams and Coke. As the great Denny Greenwood said, I found out this week the Cubs are who I thought they were. So I'm going back to what I am and not pretending I can drink beer on a regular basis.
Yeah, when you drop 3 out of 4 to the Pirates, you kind of know who you thought you were. Jason, what are you drinking this week?
Yeah, so a couple things here quickly. First off, you'll notice this is not a baseball hat, so I have to support the Sixers, in Game 5 tonight, trying to shut out the Raptors, move on to the next round. And I have a Lancaster Barnstormers jersey on right now just because season opened this past weekend, so got to support the local Atlantic League. And then tonight, I am drinking a Miller High Life because I see the word high, and I think that has to be the reason Angel Hernandez is so bad. He has to be high or drunk or something to be this bad.
Or both. Could be both. All right, tonight, guys, from Victory Brewing Company, I am trying out the Berry Monkey. It's a fruited sour triple, not as sour as Sour Monkey. So for people who don't like super sour beers like I do, that's a pretty good in between, a little past a tart, but not quite a full kick you in the tongue sour. So good option for people like my wife who don't like those full deep sour beers. All right, guys. So first, let's start with happy things first. Miguel Cabrera, man, 3,000 hits. Welcome to the club, Mickey. This has been a long time coming. Long been one of my favorite players to watch, even though I've never had the pleasure of seeing him on any team I happen to like. He is the 7th player all time to hit the 3,000 hit mark and 500 home runs. He's the first Venezuelan-born player to hit the 3,000 hit mark, the 7th Latino to hit 3,000 hits, and he's the 3rd player to get to 3,000 hits while playing for the Detroit Tigers. Ty Cobb and Al Kaline being the other two before him. So freaking phenomenal. And I think he only had like 840, 850 some hits with Miami. So very much a Detroit Tigers achievement. Guys, Miggy is he is one of the great faces of baseball. He's an ambassador to the sport. He's not a guy that's going to get fired up over little things. He encourages his teammates. I have never once heard, when a guy leaves a team, with the sour grapes, you never hear anything about Miggy. I'm so happy to see him finally get 3,000 and to do it at home too, in front of his fans as well. Especially when the Yankees pulled that crap, intentionally walking him in the 8th inning because, I get it. There's a little strategy there. They didn't want to give him the chance, but at the same time, it's 3,000 hit. Like, this is a major milestone. We're not talking about 500. We're not talking about 1,000. We're talking about 3,000. This is a benchmark that doesn't get hit very often. So, at least he got it at home. I can leave it at that.
Yeah, and Andrew, that's why I don't really think that the intentional walk is that big of a deal. It was what, a 1-0 game at the time, and it's not about the individual achievements. The Yankees are trying to win a ball game. So milestones be damned, honestly. The Yankees are trying to win a ball game. And honestly, like with that, that is the strategy. Any manager would have done the exact same thing, especially if there wasn't sitting on $29.99. But the good thing about that was the Tigers were at home the rest of the weekend against the Rockies. Odds are he's going to get it, and he did. So I really don't think that the intentional walk is that big of a deal.
No, I do tend to agree with you there, Jason. I just would have liked to have seen him have the chance. But yeah, if you look at what was going on in the game at the time, it's not like they did this in the first, the third, the fifth. It's not like Barry Bonds every time he came up was getting walked every time because nobody wanted to give up the home run to pass Hank. So quite a bit different. All right, Joe. Anything else for you about Miggy?
I mean, it's a fantastic achievement. I mean, following him a little bit closer since I follow the White Sox a good bit. He's been fun to watch in the AL Central for all these years. I agree with you guys. I don't think the Yankees. I mean, the Tigers would have done the same thing if someone they were playing was at 2999. I mean, there's nothing wrong with there from a strategy standpoint. But it's an exciting achievement. It's fun to see it, and the countdown starts to whoever the next guy is.
Absolutely. Who is the next? The funny thing is I just looked this up. There is nobody within there's nobody close. It's going to be a while till we see somebody else at 3,000.
It's like 800 hits or so that the next person is away from. Part of me wonders if we'll even see that within the next 5 to 10. Like it's going to be a very long time, I think, until we see another 3,000 hit member, if we even see another 3,000 hit member with the way that careers are these days.
I think we will, because the way offenses are exploding, I think we'll see it eventually. It's not going to happen quickly. The next highest active player, obviously Pujols is above Miggy at 3,308. Behind them though would be, let me see, Robinson Cano's at 2,631. So outside chance that the next couple years we could see him get there. Beyond that, I think really the next best chance, if he wasn't 40, would be Nelson Cruz, but he's only at 1924. So I think our best chance right now is probably going to be Robinson Cano. So
I don't even think he's going to be the next. He's going to be our best chance because he's already 39 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
So unless he plays until he's 45, which I mean, sure, it can be done, but what are the quality of his at bats going to be and things like that? So I don't even think Robinson Cano is going to get there.
Hey, with the universal DH, anything is possible, whether we like it or not, which I still don't. All right, guys, moving on. Roki Sasaki, his streak finally ended on the first pitch. After 2 straight games of perfect baseball, one of which was a perfect game, the streak finally ended. That was 52 consecutive batters he retired. He was much more mortal yesterday. He went 5 innings, allowed 2 earned runs, 3 walks, hit 2 guys, gave up 6 hits and 4 strikeouts. So it might be time to work on a third pitch besides just the fastball splitter combination. Seems like they're finally starting to get a hold of that. I did look a couple different I looked at ESPN MLB, a couple other places. It looks like it is unlikely that he will be posted for MLB clubs after this season. So our wait will be probably a few seasons at least until I don't know if his home club will hold him the whole length of time. Because I know after a certain number of years, I don't remember what it is, but players can elect automatic free agency and be able to come over to MLB on their own. So that's usually teams will keep them like up to that threshold, then post them so they can get some money back. Hey, it's the economics of the game. It's just a different variety of service time manipulation, All right, moving on. So we had some issues in the Bronx this past weekend. We had the bleacher creatures, the fan group of the Yankees that, they always start by calling out all the Yankees players until they acknowledge, Derek Jeter, Derek Jeter. My mom loved to go up to Yankee Stadium and hear that. The fact that Jeter was her favorite player, added on to that. So Saturday night, there was a double hit out into the wall. Stephen Kwan was running for the ball. He ran hard into the wall. He was shaken up pretty well after that. And then the fans started getting into it, started throwing things onto the field. The big guy involved from the Guardians was center fielder Miles Straw. He actually jumped up the fence and got into a face-to-face confrontation with at least one fan. Apparently, a nearby fan was also heard yelling derogatory comments back at him. And Oscar Mercado, the right fielder, he was also pointing up at the stands right before Straw climbed the fence. Francona said after the game, quote, "I don't think people can throw stuff at our players in the field. That's never going to be okay." On Sunday, the Yankees did increase security down along the bottom edge of the, down at the very bottom near the fence. And the worst that happened was they were chanting "Crybaby" at Miles Straw because he called the Yankees fan base the, quote, "the worst fan base on the planet" after everything went down in the ninth inning. So at least it looks like the Yankees were able to get the right security in there. They kept things under control on Sunday. Why things got to this point on Saturday, I love going to baseball games. I love going to sports games, period. I don't think, outside of a very, very, very few occasions, I can't think of a game where something happened that made me angry enough to consider throwing crap out onto the field. I'm a pretty hardcore baseball fan. You guys have both watched baseball games with me. I'm not quiet by any small stretch of the imagination. But I've never understood why you throw things on the field. Joe, what do you think about all this?
A lot of this goes back. We were talking about this with the Dodgers last week. Fans buy a ticket and they think it gives them a license to be a complete jackass. And I'm so freaking tired of this. It's ridiculous. Like, watch the game like everybody else and move on. Like, you want to have a beef with somebody in the parking lot, be my guest. But don't do it in the ballpark. Like, this crap's just got to stop. I'm not surprised it was Yankee fans, but, regardless of where this happens, if this happens in the bleachers at Wrigley, I'd be pissed. It's just dumb. Knock it off.
Exactly. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, it's just completely unnecessary, uncalled for. And this is like, I'm a Philadelphia fan, and I've seen what the reputation is of this fan base. And the thing that kind of drives me nuts about this is how I know that if it was a Philadelphia fan base that did something like that, it will be constantly news for more than just the 24 hours that it was this weekend. And people even bring it back to, I'm even doing this a little bit now, like they compare them to the Philadelphia fans when there's no place for it in any fan base and in any sport. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
To your point, Jason, we're still talking all these years about the time the Eagles fans booed Santa Claus.
Not just booed him, they threw snowballs at him.
Right.
And the thing is with that, though, people don't look at the backstory of that, which is it wasn't just Santa Claus. It was a guy who was drunk dressed in a Santa costume. So it's not that the Philadelphia fans, like the Eagles fans, were. Granted, I can't stand the Eagles, and I understand the reputation, but people need to look at the entire story here, and it's that Philadelphia fans they threw snowballs at a drunkard dressed like Santa. So
To be fair on that point, who was actually still sober at that point in the football game in that entire stadium that wasn't a child? Not very many, if any, people. And to another point, Philadelphia has fairly earned that reputation by doing things like throwing batteries down on the field too at players. So we kind of expect this with Philadelphia fans. I mean, I remember many years ago when I was at the opening day. Actually, this might have been it wasn't the last home opener of the Vet. It was after that. It was the Citizens Bank Park, but I was at one of the home openers when they were playing the Pirates. And I had enough. I was just wearing my Chipper jersey because, I always do because I like to stir the pot. Q Joe playing the Salem the Cat meme. And my buddy John was with me and he was wearing a Pirates shirt. He's actually a Pirates fan. So, it made sense for him. We had enough quarters and stuff thrown at us from the upper deck that we didn't pay for any of our beer or hot dogs that day. Honestly, worth it. But that I expect though. If you are a fan of a rival team in the rival stadium, you got to have some thick skin when you go in. I mean, you shouldn't be assaulted, looking back at the Brian Stowe incident from way back when, but a little verbal abuse, yeah, I can understand that, especially when you have a whole bunch of drunken idiots on both sides yelling at each other.
Well, and the thing with that too is like they still should have been throwing things at you. So I'm not going to justify that. But it wasn't even a Braves game and you were wearing a Braves jersey too. So my guess is that had a little bit of something to do with that.
And considering it's Chipper Jones, who usually hit the Phillies pretty damn well.
Yeah. I know I loved yelling Larry whenever the Phils and Braves played each other. And I will say, Joe, I need to give Cubs fans a lot of credit because, and I know every fan base has some outliers that just are awful. But a few years ago, I went to Wrigley just 2 weeks after deciding that my best friend Dave and I were going to go. We drove out through the night, got there in the morning, did a stadium tour, saw the game, which it was the Phillies, and got deep dish pizza, drove back through the night. And I wore all my Phillies gear because I'm like, hey, you know what? They're actually playing the Phillies, so I have to support my team. And the Cubs fans could not have been nicer. We were sitting with just surrounded by Cubs fans, and they were like, oh, it's your first time out here. That's awesome. Make sure you go here to get, your first timer certificate. Make sure you go look at this, go look at that. And like they were sharing their peanuts and popcorn and whatnot with us. Like it truly, the Cubs fans that day made that experience just so amazing because it was the way that Dave and I were able to cross Wrigley off of our bucket list.
That's awesome. We need more fan bases to be like that, honestly. Let's highlight the good stuff, and maybe that'll help push some of the bad stuff away and make it a more enjoyable experience for everybody.
To be fair, the Cub fans were losers long enough that you've kind of developed a camaraderie with other fans to be like, you know what? They're here to have a good time. We're here to have a good time and drown our misery. So it works out pretty well.
Well, plus speaking of misery, I mean, it is the two teams that hit 10,000 losses before any other teams in baseball. So just saying. All right. And on that shake of the head from Jason, we'll move on.
They're also two of the oldest teams in the league, so it makes sense.
Two of the oldest, but you know what? They're not the oldest continually operating franchise. That would be the Braves. Thank you very much. As I said, moving on, we've got the Royal City Connect uniforms are released. These are interesting. I'm not quite sure how I want to rate them yet until I see them on the field. So it's a tribute to the city's iconic fountains and Art Deco architecture. The sleeve logo is an homage to the team's original franchise logo from 1969. The triple braiding on the sleeves is reminiscent of the uniforms in the 80s. The new number styling is a reference again to that Art Deco architecture. There's Paul Lucas of Uniwatch. He last week had shared it's a logo representing like all the fountains and stuff in the city, and it's very much based on that. I kind of, to be honest, that part I really kind of like. You'll never see this, but inside of the collar, hey, 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 is stitched. Nod to the Royals' victory song by Paul McCartney. So here's where I'm not so sure. They decided to go with navy blue instead of powder blue in a reference to the city's baseball history because the A's, the Monarchs, the Blues, the Blue Sox, the Packers, all the teams that played in Kansas City at one point or another, they wore navy blue. So I kind of wish they would have gone royal blue just because there have been so damn many navy, and royal or powder is just so iconic with the Royals. But I can understand why they went navy. And then the uniforms, they're going to debut on April 30th against the Yankees. Guys, what do you think of these uniforms? They're definitely interesting, and I feel like in the idea of combining the city and the fan base all together, I think they did a great job in the design. Jason, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, these are some of my favorites, actually. I think they're very sleek. I know you go back and forth as far as the navy blue. I like the fact that they went with the navy blue as a nod to their baseball history. And yeah, they're just very, they're not over the top. They're very natural looking, and it's just a very nice overall design.
Crisp, I think, is the word you were trying to think of. It's a crisp cut design. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like these too. I think you know, when you explain all the history behind it too, because I don't always look that up. I look at the picture more so, but it really ties it all together. I like the fact that they did put some of that powder blue in the cuff. I think at the bottom of the sleeve, there's some of that powder blue. I think they did powder blue belts and they did white pants. I think it looks sharp. It's a nice combo of everything. It's not too much blue like we've seen with the Dodgers, the Cubs, and some of these other uniforms where it's been a ton of blue. So I really like it. It's a nice look.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the only thing I don't like with the Navy is the utter proliferation of Navy, especially from teams that don't typically use Navy in their color. The Cubs jerseys come to mind really quickly on that one. Joe's absolute favorite City Connect jersey from last year. But Jason, you're right. At least the Navy has a purpose this time. It's not just Navy for the sake of being Navy. And yeah, I really hope they don't do navy pants. Please do white pants because that will look so nice. I didn't see any pictures if they had Stance make special socks that nobody will see because players for whatever reason don't like to go high cuffed anymore. I really wish they would go back to that. I love that look. Anytime I'm playing MLB The Show, my road to the show player is always high cuffed with stirrups because it looks better. It just does. Or the stance socks. I can go either way, but it has to be high cuffed, not low. All right, guys. So moving on from those jerseys, we had a record set over the weekend. Byron Buxton set the record for the longest walk-off home run in the StatCast era, hitting a 469-foot homer off of a Liam Hendricks fastball. That is Buxton's second walk-off home run of his career. His first one was in 2017. For the game, he hit 5 RBIs, and the exit velo on that sucker was 111.8 miles per hour. Let me repeat that, 111.8. Holy crap. He said after he hit it, he couldn't even figure out where the ball went because it went so far, so high, so quickly. Boy, is that not just the greatest way to pimp up your own home run and make it look even better? Oh man! So
yeah, that was a no doubter off the bat. I had that turned on, I think, live, and I'm like, oh shit! Hendricks, I think, was high by like 6 inches, and it was just like, good lord.
Oh, it was a terrible pitch. It
Oh
was an
gosh.
absolutely terrible mislocation
Just
pitch, and it got destroyed in one of the most beautiful possible ways it could be destroyed. I mean, think back to playing backyard baseball, and when you got the steel bat power up. You know how the moment the ball hits the bat and you know goodbye, you're never going to see that one. That's what that reminded me of, even though it wasn't a steel bat. Holy crap.
it may as well have been. Good lord. I mean, that was all the way up in the third deck. It was nuts.
If he would have had a steel bat and hit it that hard, I think it wouldn't have come down until it hit like Albuquerque or something like that. I mean, that was utterly like that might have actually passed Jorge Soler's World Series home run ball in orbit on its way to the moon. So that was yeah, holy crap. All right, so let's look at some milestones. I decided since Miggy hit the big one, let's look at some other ones coming up. We got a couple guys getting close to 2,000 hits. Nelson Cruz is 76 away. Andrew McCutcheon's 160 away. Kutch, I don't expect him to hit that this year. Nelson Cruz should. He'll probably hit that at some point this year. Pujols, he only needs 7 more hits to move into 11th place all time. 12 to move into 10th place all time, and then to get to 9th, he'll need another 100. So I'm not going to say it's outside of the realm of possibilities. I just don't know if he's going to get enough games this year to have that opportunity. I would love to see him crack all the way up to 9th place. That would be pretty awesome. Miggy, 5 more hits and he'll be 31st all time. So he'll keep, I'm sure he's going to have that probably by May or probably within the first week or two into May. Home runs, we got a couple getting close. Stanton is 1 away from 350. Robinson Cano is 15 away from 350. George Springer is 1 away from 200. If Pujols can hit 15, he will get to 4th place all time, and he will pass the wonderfully hated Alex Rodriguez. Miggy, he is 2 away from 27th place all time. Austin, we will be hitting that later, bud. Jason's got a special rant queued up for that one. For runs scored, Freddie is 20 away from 1,000. Mike Trout's 21 away from 1,000. Pujols needs 5 runs and he'll be 13th place. RBIs, Yachty is 2 away from 1,000. Freddie's 50 away from 1,000. Goldschmidt 68 away from 1,000. So we should see all 3 of those hit this year, I would think. Here's a crazy one, Joe. Albert Pujols, if he hits 61 RBIs, he will pass Babe Ruth for 2nd all time. Talk about a record that I wasn't sure we would ever see go down. To pass Hank, he's going to need 143. I don't see that happening. He'll retire before that. Miggy, 4 more. He'll pass Frank Robinson for 21. Looking at the pitchers, Max Scherzer, he will hit 200 this year. He only needs 7. Clayton Kershaw should hit 200 with 12 if he can stay healthy. Adam Wainwright, again, if he can stay healthy and the Cardinals can bother to give him a couple runs, Adam Wainwright will hit he's 14 away from 200. For strikeouts, Bumgarner's 39 away from 2,000. Max Scherzer, he only needs 42 more to pass John Smoltz for 17th place all time. Kershaw needs 80 more to move into 25th place. I'm sure he'll get that. Craig Kimbrell, looking at saves, he's at 375 right now, so 25 away from 400, and he only needs 3 to pass Joe Nathan for 8th all time. He'll probably get hit Eckersley this year too at 390, and then Kenley Jansen, he only needs 5 to pass Troy Percival for 12th all time. So guys, those are some milestones I think we should see achieved this year. And for our a couple of our guys who are at the tail end of their careers, that are just working their way up the leaderboards, I think we'll be happy to see that happen. I'm honestly, the fact that Albert Pujols is as close as he is to Babe and Hank for RBIs is just incredible to me. Could you guys think of any other milestones coming up? I think I got all the big ones. I didn't even bother to look at stolen bases because if you're not a Marlin, nobody steals anymore.
No, I mean, I think a lot of these could be fun to see. Pujols, see what kind of year he has and how many of these he gets to. The fact that we're looking at Kershaw, who doesn't have 200 wins, is kind of surprising to me. I mean, 300 used to be the huge benchmark for pitchers. Now it feels like 200 could become that benchmark with the way we use pitchers now.
I don't know that we're ever going to see another 300 win pitcher. I don't even know about 250, to be honest with you. It's just, yeah, they just don't rack the wins like they used to.
Yeah, and the thing we need to also remember with Kershaw is he's had quite a few injuries that caused him starts and wins. There is a milestone that I'm kind of keeping an eye on personally. Gene Segura for the Phils is sitting on 99 home runs. So
Okay.
he is one away from hitting that century milestone.
Yeah, he'll definitely hit that probably within the next couple weeks, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not known as a power hitter, so getting to 100 is pretty significant for a guy with not as much power as you would want.
Yeah, but considering he plays in Philadelphia and as it warms up, that place turns into a launching pad that anybody can hit a home run out of. Yeah, he'll get it.
And I will gladly take his batting average and the RBIs and defense over the power. There's other guys that can hit the long ball. So
yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to our teams. I'm gonna hit the Braves quickly. There wasn't a whole hell of a lot to talk about. It was not a good week. First, they dropped 2 or 3 at the Dodgers, and this was the last 3 games of 14 straight to open the season because, what the hell, MLB? This sucks. Anyway, game 1 was a 7-4 loss, but it was the reunion for Freddie and the Braves. Freddie actually said after the game it was the first time he'd seen a lot of the guys since the parade, so that was nice to see. Freddie hit his first home run as a Dodger off Huascar Yanoa, who continues to be utterly ineffective and was sent down to AAA. Thank God, because he's terrible right now. For the adorable moment of the day, Charlie Freeman, Freddie's oldest son, saw Dansby and ran across the diamond during the pregame and jumped into his arms to give him a hug before the game. I mean, we always like to talk about the impact for players when they move franchises and things like that, but we don't often get to see the impact on the family. But Charlie's there. When Freddie was the Braves, Charlie was there every game. He was always there, and it's cool to see that he still remembers his buddies from Atlanta too. And I'd love to see Atlanta draft him someday. That kid's got a great swing. Chipper said if I had a swing at that age, I could have caught Hank. Otherwise, though, it was an uneventful game for the Braves. Bellinger hit a home run for the Dodgers. Heredia and Albies both hit homers off Kershaw, but they were solo shots because the Braves are going Harper style this year. At that point in the season, 14 of the 15 Braves home runs had been solo shots. At that point, the only multi-home run hit was Austin Riley's 2-run shot in the opener. Kershaw, not a great game. 5 innings, 4 runs, 6 hits, 7 strikeouts, but it was his 100th victory at Dodger Stadium, so that was pretty cool. Game 2, Atlanta took that 3-1. Max Fried laid the lumber down, 7 innings, 2 hits, 8 strikeouts. Darno hit a solo home run. RC and Riley had RBIs, and Kenley Jansen picked up the save. That was his first against the Dodgers. And this is something I'm going to talk about towards the end here. Braves out hit the Dodgers 12-2, but they only got 3 runs. Walker Buehler, not a great game, 5 innings, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk and 2 strikeouts. And the Braves finally kept Freddie under control for the only game in the series they would do so, holding him over 4 with 2 strikeouts. In the third game, it was a 5-1 loss. Freddie hit a 2-run homer and went 3 for 4 in the day. Bellinger 2 for 4, double, triple, and RBI. Charlie Morton hasn't had it yet this year, guys. 5 1/3, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, whereas Gonsolin looked phenomenal. 6 innings, a hit, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. The Braves did have a good rally in the ninth going. Ozuna and Olsen hit back-to-back doubles in the ninth with 2 outs to rally, but that fell short. And again, Braves hitting not timely, 3 double plays. Moving back home for the Marlins, they won game 1 3-0. Kyle Wright, he's been utterly dominant and has been the bright spot of the pitching staff so far, although it looks like Fried's starting to turn it up. He struck out a career high 11 batters, retired 11 straight at one point. He only allowed 4 hits over 6 innings. He's got a 106 ERA after 3 starts. Olsen 2 RBI double in the 7th, and Jansen picked up his 4th save. Jorge Soler, this was his first time back in Atlanta since signing with Miami, and the fans gave him a standing ovation before his first at bat, which he promptly slashed up the middle for a base hit. Game 2 is a back and forth affair. Jazz Chisholm, absolutely phenomenal. He was a triple short of the cycle, 4 hits total, 3 runs, 2 steals, 3 RBIs. The Marlins, because of course the Marlins had 14 hits in a back and forth affair. Spencer Strider, he finally came back down to earth. He didn't get recorded and out, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, and blew the 7-6 lead. The bullpen in this whole game, they gave up 6 runs. Ian Anderson had a nice start that got wasted because of that. McHugh and Strider both blew saves. Joe, Jesse Chavez, thank you for sending him back our way. 2 innings, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts to finish the game. No runs. And honestly, though, just bad pitching by the Braves. 7 walks total. Now, Dickerson hit a 2-run homer, so that was good. He's had a bunch of hard hit balls that just keep getting caught. And again, it finally broke up that horrible streak of 16 consecutive solo home runs, which is the longest streak Atlanta's had since at least 1960 for straight run of solo homers. Albies Riley's also had homers. And game 3 was another 5-4 loss. Garrett Cooper was hot. Cooper's gotten on base safely in 12 out of 14 games for the Marlins. If he keeps that up, that's going to be huge for them. He really gets their offense going along with Jazz Chisholm. The Braves were down 5-1 in the 9th. Olsen had a sac fly. Riley hit a 2-run homer off Tanner Scott, which chased him. Luis Head came in, and he allowed Ozuna's double, but then he struck out Duvall and Rosario. 2 guys who really need to get their bats going, as Duvall's in the low hundreds and Rosario is under 100 right now and needs to get that up. So here's the thing: the Braves went 1 for 12 runners in scoring position that last game, and Darno's not throwing anybody out, just like the postseason. 13 out of 14 guys trying to steal the season have reached safely. I'm still not super concerned. I'm frustrated. I'm not super concerned because I'm waiting for Acuna to come back. Once Acuna comes back, he's going to lengthen the lineup. He's going to push everybody back a spot. He's going to be protected because he's got guys like Olsen behind him, Ozuna behind him, Albies behind him, Riley behind him. And it's going to push Rosario down. It's going to push Duvall down, give them a chance to rebound. And it's going to help the defense so much. The outfield defense has been not quite Philadelphia bad, but it hasn't been good. Ozuna's got a noodle arm in left field. He can't throw out a fly. And Rosario, he's not terrible in right, but he's not great in right. So, again, I'm not stressed out. The Mets are playing well. The Mets will fall back down to earth like they always do. You guys have anything else that you noted from the Atlanta series? Joe, nothing. Jason, nothing.
I want to pull up something here because you're going after the Phillies and their defense.
And I'll continue to do so.
I'm pretty sure that aside from Alec Boehm, which since that 3-error game, he's been really solid. Just because I'm curious to see who. Let's see here. The Phillies are middle of the pack as far as team errors per game. They are 15th with the White Sox are last with 1.2 errors committed per game. And let's see who else is in here. Let's see where our teams are. Cubs are tied for 10th with Milwaukee, the Giants, and Boston at 0.44. Atlanta is 0.41 in 8th. San Diego is 0.12, and they are the leaders as far as not committing errors. And the Phils are at basically half an error, 0.5. They are tied for 15th. So bash the defense all you want. Their defense is actually not that bad.
After 1 month.
Still not that bad.
It's going to get worse as the season goes on. I promise you that.
We'll see.
What's up, Joe?
I think the Padres' first error happened. I think it was yesterday or Saturday. That's quite a long time to go without an error. That's pretty impressive to me.
That's extremely impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Jason. I don't think it's definitely not as bad as it's made out to be. I know it's a month in, but still, you know, I don't think it's as much to worry about as we've been led to believe.
We'll see. Two comments I want to hop back around on. Austin Young wanted to ask, are there any teams you guys think stick out record-wise that are better than their record shows? Several. I think Atlanta is better than their record shows. And again, I think once Acuna gets back, I absolutely think things are going to turn around there. One of the interesting ones, and this is jumping ahead a little bit towards hot teams. The White Sox are 6-9 right now on a 7-game skid. And they are much better than that. I know they are utterly decimated by injuries right now, unlike any team has been hit. I mean, they're down at least 2 starting pitchers. They're down a couple of guys in the field. And I think that's going to turn. I think the White Sox are definitely going to turn around. I don't think the Twins are going to stay on top of that division for till the end of the year. Other teams, I'm just peeking at the standings quick.
There's a couple that I can chime in while you look, Andrew.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I mean, it's definitely a homer pick here, but the Phillies at 6-9, 6-10. Where are they? 6-10.
6-10.
They're better than 6-10. It's early yet, so I'm not overly panicked there. The other team that I think the Astros are better than their record shows. They're listed at 7-8. I think they're absolutely better than that record. And I know I have them in 4th place, and they're currently staying in 4th place in the AL East, but the Red Sox at 7-9, I think some of that is just tough division, but they're better than that record.
Yeah. Austin, that's a great question. I'm going to go back to what I've been saying every single episode so far. It is too early to panic unless you're one of the bottom third teams that has no hope. And by bottom third teams that has no hope, I mean the Pirates, the Reds, the Orioles, the Rangers, the Royals. These teams know who they are. Let's put the Diamondbacks in there too. It's
if the Pirates are fortunate enough to play the Cubs 162 games, they would have hope.
I mean, other than when they occasionally give up 20 runs, right?
And Austin actually replied with a really great point.
Yeah.
The Orioles, they're 6-10, but their bullpen has been lights out so far this year. The problem here is, one, they're starting pitching, especially now that they've lost John Means for Tommy John surgery. And I mean, the batting, and they're not getting runs, they're not producing. And yeah, Austin, exactly. They're just not getting the runs for their pitching staff, and the bullpen is just fantastic right now.
Yeah. It's crazy, and I feel like I said something about this last year after the Braves Orioles series. Even though the Braves swept that series last year, it wasn't an easy sweep because we could hit their starters, no problem, because we didn't see Means. But their bullpen was tough. We weren't able to do a ton of damage against the bullpen last year. Jason, do you remember that from when you guys played the Orioles last year, if you were able to do much off the bullpen or not? Because I feel like their bullpen wasn't horrific. That wasn't their problem last year.
Knowing the Phillies and their habit of playing down to the teams that are bad, my guess would be no, they didn't do anything against the bullpen.
Or any other part.
but I don't know offhand.
Yeah, just the overall impression I got from watching those games. And again, the Orioles have a ton of pitching that if their idiot ownership would decide to bring up now that you lost your ace to Tommy John till probably the middle of next season, this team could, potentially make some noise if they would bother to do that. But God forbid, why would the Orioles do that? All right. And then, Joe, you had mentioned that Karen had asked if another jersey will ever be retired league-wide and under what circumstances. To be honest, I don't think we're ever going to see that happen again outside of an extraordinary circumstance like an incredibly tragic sudden death, something along the lines of who was the Marlins pitcher? I'm blanking all of a sudden.
Fernandez?
Yeah, something like that. So, outside of something like that, I don't see it happening again. No, you know what? I could see one situation
I
where
have one scenario.
I could see one situation where it would happen if we have one of our phenomenal USA softball players come over and play baseball and stick, not just break the barrier, but stick in and stick around for a period of time. I could see that happening. But other than that, I really don't see another league-wide retirement. The only other thing maybe would be something tragic like what happened to the Marshall football team, like a plane crash killing the entire team. But again, that wouldn't be numbers. That would just be a special memorial or something like that. Can you guys think of anything else?
My gut reaction was initially no, as far as there ever being another number retired. But I do think that we'll eventually get to the point because we need to look at why Jackie Robinson's number was retired. And he broke an insane barrier, fought through so much to have that successful career. And I think you'll see that the number that would be retired will be I think the first woman to play in MLB. And I think we'll get there. It's starting to happen. There's women playing at different levels, collegiate. There is a woman playing in the Atlantic League right now. So I think we'll get there, and I think that's when you'll see the next number be retired across the entire sport.
And there's a woman playing over in the Australian Professional League as well. Nasty curveball, too. Peter Moylan, former pitcher for the Braves and a whole bunch of other teams. He's doing color commentary with Bally South now, but before he came back, he was he was either like a special pitching coach to her, or he was one of the coaches on her team and got to work with her and said she's got nasty stuff. So, what? Obviously, the level of play in Australia versus the United States significantly different, but you could see a pipeline forming there, and I would love to see that, honestly. All right, Joe, how about them Cubbies, bud?
Well, let's start off with the good with the Cubs. They still continue to lead the majors in hitting across most categories. I know it's early, but hey, I've got to hang my hat on something here. 273 average, 354 on base, 420 slugging, 774 OPS plus for the Cubs as a team. 77 RBIs as a team, which leads the league. They tie with the Dodgers for that number. 35 doubles, 13 home runs. So they're getting it done in a lot of ways offensively, at least as far as hitting the ball all over the place. So I have to be happy about that. Going into last week, I was optimistic they could maybe get 2 or 3 from the Rays. They only got 1. They got that game on Monday night. Patrick Wisdom continued to get hot. He hit a 2-run homer. Ian Happ had an RBI single. He's continued to be hot. Schwindy City hit an Oppo Taco again. Some Mexican chain in Chicago needs to coin that, the Schwindel Oppo Taco, on their menu. And if you do, don't forget who gave you that idea. Uh, so they were Swindell's really starting to get hot, and he's doing it in a lot of ways. Uh, the pitcher for this one for the Rays, McClanahan, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, and 9 strikeouts. Normally that gets it done. This game it didn't for them. The Cubs won this one 4-2. Um, Hendricks went 4 1/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. So he was good. Wasn't his best, but it was good. Keegan Thompson, 3.2 scoreless innings again, 1 hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He's really been the bright spot of that bullpen, or one of the best spots in that bullpen. The big question for Cub fans is he going to get a chance to start, or is he going to kind of stay in that long relief role that he's really kind of found his niche in? Not really sure just yet with that. Game 2, Cubs lose this one 6-5. Justin Steele gets his first of 2 losses on the week. 2 2/3, 3 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, a homer, and a strikeout. So the walks are up a bit. He loses command fairly quickly in a game. So once you get past, first time and through the lineup, his command starts to go a little bit. So we'll see if that continues, or if we can figure that out. Wander Franco in this game for the Rays went 3 for 5 with the homer, a double, 2 RBIs. The Rays scored 3 runs in the third, and that kind of put them in control of this one. Killridge for Tampa had a 2-inning save. Hayward left in the bottom of the fourth. Why he still starts, I have no idea, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. Wisdom pinch hit for him and hit a 2-run homer. Nico had an RBI triple, so Nico's starting to finally hit. Martin is a bit of a rough reliever for them right now. The stuff might be good, but he's not getting good results at this point. Continues to give up a lot of hits and a lot of runs. Game 3 for them mercilessly ended 8-2 in the 6th inning due to rain. I wish it could have ended sooner. Cubs had 3 errors in this game, 2 on VR and 1 on Yan Gomes. VR has 4 of the team's 7 errors on the season right now. So he's really having a bad year defensively to start. I know it's early, but I still think that's a concern to look at. Stroman went 4 1/3, 8 hits, 8 runs, 7 of them were earned, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. And those 7 strikeouts came after he kind of settled down in the third, fourth, and part of the 5th inning. It was 5-0 after 2. In the group chat, I'm like, why the heck is he still in there? And sure enough, he looked really good in the third and the fourth, but the 5th, and then guys got on, the wheels fell off. So Rays got 3 runs in the top of the 5th. There's just not enough steady offense in some of these games for these Cubs guys. They're hitting the ball all over the place, but they're leaving guys on. They're not hitting with guys at second or third, getting those runners in scoring position in. But Swindy had an RBI double. Nick Madrigal had an RBI ground out to first. 4 hits and 6 left on base. It's not going to get it done. Mejia had a home run and a double for the Rays. Lowe went 2 for 3, had a triple and a double. So a nice offensive output for the Rays, and I wish that it had, again, ended before the 5th with the rain. I don't know. Sometimes they make these schedule changes with the rain, and you just don't know how it's going to work out. But anyhow, that was the Rays series. Again, I'm not terribly disappointed that they only got 1. I was hoping to get 2 the way that they've been playing. But when you split the Pirates to start the season in that first week, trust me, we're getting to it. When you split the Pirates in the first week, you need to win 2 out of 3 against Tampa. If you don't split the Pirates in the first week, only getting 1 out of 3 from Tampa, it doesn't feel that bad. Any thoughts on the Rays series?
No, you nailed it, man. Hey, you got 1 at least. All right, fire the rant machine up.
Yeah, I'm just going to say no because I want to hear the rest of this.
Okay. So we've got start the series with the Pirates. They move game. Well, this is Thursday. So Thursday, game 1, Pittsburgh wins this 4-3. Will Crow for the Pirates gets the win with one hit, given up, 2 in the third inning and 5 strikeouts. And that's the only hit that the Cubs got off the bullpen in the entire second half of this game. It was ridiculous. They have a lot of, we talked about their hitting stats to start this, but you've got to get those hits in these games. You can't not get those hits in a game like this. Leiter Jr. made his next start, 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs. So he's just still not really figured it out yet. I know it's early, but I wish that they would kind of figure out how to do this and how to handle this properly because they haven't yet. The 3 runs for the Cubs in this game were on a bases loaded walk, a sac fly, and a ground out to third base. Where a guy scores from third. The most laziest way to score a run. The laziest, boring baseball to score runs. That's what they did, and then they didn't do anything after that. Wisdom got pinch hit for with Madrigal, and this goes into my Ross spiel. I'm going to kind of save that for the end of this series recap here, but I just don't get it. I don't. Vogelbach for Pittsburgh had a 2-run homer in the third. Sasugo had a RBI double in the fifth. Roberts came in to pitch after Leiter Jr. went out, and he threw 30 pitches, and I think 15 or 16 of them were cutters. It's just not going to get it done. And when you throw 7 cutters to Sasugo in the same spot, Cub fans talk an awful lot about how great Wilson is. This was not one of his strongest games behind the plate. You've got to mix it up. You got to do something. So 7 pitches in a row in the same spot, and then he gets an RBI double, and we're supposed to be surprised by that. We've talked for a long time about wacky plays against the Pirates and Javi's magic goofball goading the first baseman into a pickoff between first and home last year, and how we talked about the Pirates for the entire season for that one play. This might go the other way for me this year. Ryan Reynolds hits a triple in the 7th on a soft ground ball down the third base line. First off, how the hell? Now, stats for you. The exit velocity on this hit, 49.4 miles per hour. And the ball travels a total distance of 79 feet. Which is crazy enough as it is, right? This is MLB The Show crap. That's what this is. Reynolds just goes, screw it, I'm just going to keep running because we shifted over and we had one guy on that side of the diamond, in the shortstop position. And it's just screw it, I'm just going to keep running. Like you do that kind of shit on the show. That's embarrassing. I really was disappointed. And now we get to be the laughing stock of this, joke where the crazy plays happen now for the next, few weeks until the next one happens. So it's just disappointing the way they've been playing with this week. Game 2, they moved this start time from 1 o'clock to 7, 2 hours before the game because of weather. Pittsburgh wins this one 4-2. An RBI, 2 RBI singles for Roberto Perez, and a home run, and a 2 RBI double for Hermosillo, who doesn't get enough plate appearances, thanks to my wonderful manager. The Cubs offense struggles again. They have 10 strikeouts in this game. They had 7 hits, but that 10 strikeouts stands out because they were not striking out a lot the first 2 weeks here. 8 guys left on base. Smiley gets the loss, 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, 2 home runs. Keegan Thompson again is lights out, 4 innings, 2 hits, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. The Cubs had 4 hits and 4 and a third against the bullpen for the Pirates. The Pirates bullpen looked like Cy Young out there. It was ridiculous. Cy Young and Mariano Rivera. It was just disgusting. Keegan Thompson, some season numbers for you here: 13 and 2/3 innings. He's 2-0, 6 hits, 1 hit batter, McCutcheon, obviously. 3 walks, 14 strikeouts. So, he's really having a solid year for them. And again, the big question is, does he move to a starter role or does he stay in this role? We're kind of waiting to see what happens with Wade Miley and all of that. So that's game 2. Game 3, this 21-0 monstrosity of a baseball game. The Cubs scored 21 runs in this game. The Reds had scored 20 runs in their last 10 games. There's my opportunity to dig at the Reds, who thankfully actually, beat the Cardinals on Sunday. So, hey, I got to give them props for that one. 23 hits in this game for the Cubs and only 1 home run. I mean, that's the exciting part about this for my club, is that they're making things happen without the home run. Pittsburgh had 3 hits total. Cubs had 3 strikeouts as a team, 19 RBIs, and 15 for 25 with runners in scoring position. So they really basically just a massacre occur in this game. It was just brutal to see. Hendricks looked really good overall, 7 innings. Oh, imagine what happens when you let a guy pitch more than 5 innings. 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. And those 2 strikeouts didn't come till the 7th inning. So he was getting a lot of weak contact and ground balls, and threw a ton of fastballs. Suzuki went 3 for 4. Wilson went 3 for 5. Ian Happ went 3 for 6. Continues to be hot. Nico went 4 for 5, all singles. Rivas had the home run. It was a 3-run homer. He had 5 RBIs by the 5th inning, I think. So it was quite a fun game to watch. In reaction to the Pirates not posting the score on Twitter over the weekend, somebody said, "Look, we can live with losing 21-0, but how did you let Jason Hayward get multiple RBIs?" So, they had all sorts of fun things to say, and this was fun to see, fun to watch. Frank Schwindel had so much fun. He went to hang out with the fans after the game at Murphy's. So, for those lucky Cub fans, that had to be fun to see and fun to hang out with him. Game 4, again, Steele takes the loss. VR had, again, we've talked about VR. He had a throwing error in this game. He's had 4 of the team's 7 errors. Ian Happ continues to hit the ball well. The Cubs just a run total for this series. The Cubs outscored Pittsburgh 29-12 and lose 3 of 4. How the hell do you do that? The only way you do that, I tell you, is because your manager is David Ross. Because they're stuck on Hayward. They play Hayward more than they should. You pull Wisdom out when you're only a run down. Wisdom can change the game with the swing of the bat. And you pull him and put in Nick Madrigal. Not that I think Nick Madrigal is a bad ball player, but I'd rather take VR out than Wisdom in that situation. If you're going to, he didn't let Nico, who had those 4 hits on Saturday, play at all yesterday, which I just don't get. You have an off day today, as we'll touch on later. You have an off day today. The best thing for Nico is to get that rhythm and keep that rhythm going into play the Braves, the White Sox, the Dodgers. I mean, I want the guy that everybody thought we would be replacing in the offseason to really continue to stay in a rhythm. So I still don't get the pitching decisions. I still don't get all of these lineup decisions. Again, we've talked about this a ton, but how the heck can you mismanage pitchers so poorly? I don't get it. They really need to make some decisions here about Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson and what you're going to do there. It's just a mess.
In one game, the Cubs scored enough runs to drink, and they still lose 3 of 4. Man,
that was the number that I had in my mind. I'm sure he'll touch on it, but I was just going to pose the number of 17, because a 17 run differential and you lose 3 out of the 4 is just unheard of.
It's insane.
Well, it's just unacceptable. I mean, let's be real. It's unheard of, but it's also just a joke at this point. You know, the hitting numbers they have, and you're not able to turn that into as many runs as they should be able to, is kind of disappointing. You know, we'll see what they can do and how the things shake out. But I don't really like the fact that they're playing Hayward as much as they are. They are subbing him out a lot more quickly.
Joe, you muted yourself, bud.
I got it. You know, they're giving him, you know, starting at bats, I think, just to start him, and then they pull him out. But for me, it's I would rather see Alfonso Rivas, an outfielder who's 26 years old, you have team control of for 6 years or something like that. I'd rather see you see what you have, you know, going into the later the parts of this year, and kind of figuring out what you have on the roster and in the organization, rather than see an aged outfielder continue to get reps for no reason. I don't want him to get, you know, to get disappeared into the oblivion. I do want him to get some games, and I think he's due that, but I don't think that he's due starting just for the sake of starting him. I don't understand that mentality. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Does anything David Ross does make sense? I mean, at this point, I think we can all confirm the answer is a resounding no.
No, of course he doesn't. I mean, you know, obviously management felt like they wanted to keep Hayward around, and obviously management has a pulse on some of this, you know, between Ricketts and Jed wanting these guys to, you know, keep him around and get him at bats and all of that. Make sure he's playing enough for what he's getting paid. I understand all of those things from a financial standpoint, but you have to be in the business of winning games. And, you know, when you have a guy like Rivas, like we've talked about, when you have guys like Suzuki, when you have Wisdom, when you've got Ian Happ, who's hitting the cover off the ball right now, you know, you don't pull, you know, you don't start with Hayward and then put Wisdom in, and Wisdom gets the home run and everybody's happy. But why is he even in there all the time? I don't like starting guys, again, just for the sake of starting him. I have no problem if you want to bring him in late in the game for defense or bring him in for an at bat, you know, throughout the game, or give him a couple innings here and there. But I don't like starting guys just for the sake of starting people.
No, I completely agree with that. All right, I think we pretty well knocked the Cubs out. Especially that wonderful 20. Hey, at least you have one game where they scored 21 to make your overall run differential look a little better, you know? All right, Jason, it's time to rant about Angel Hernandez. Bring it.
Well, we're going to do a quick little recap here of the 2 series this week for the Phils. And then, it will be time. I still have pent-up aggression after last night. So Phil started out this week against the Rockies. They were in Colorado. Game 1, 4-1 loss. Cole went 6 shutout innings, only gave up 2 hits to the Phils. Charlie Blackmon hit a home run for the Rockies. Aaron Nola, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs. Nothing spectacular to talk about there. Game 2 was another loss for the Phillies, 6-5 this time around. This was the first game that the bullpen gave up. Sir Anthony Dominguez ended up getting the loss. The Phils were up 4-3, and 3-run homer was given up by Dominguez to CJ Crone. So that was the killer there. Gibson did okay. 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs. Freeland for the Rockies went 5 innings, gave up 6 hits and 2 earned runs. Game 3 was a 9-6 win for the Phillies. They had a 5-run 7th inning, which propelled them to the win. Eflin went 5 2/3, gave up 8 hits, 2 earned runs, so not a bad outing there. Marquez for the Rockies went 6, gave up 8 hits and 4 earned runs, and Knievel got the save. Knievel has not blown a save yet this year. Granted, they haven't really been in many save situations, but it's refreshing to see. And in this game, we have home runs from Castellanos, Bohm, Schwarber, and Camargo. And Schwarber's went 468 feet to the third deck at Coors, and it was just an absolute blast. I know that it's Colorado, so naturally there's thin air, but that might have been 468 feet in third deck anywhere. It was hit that hard. Until the Buxton walk-off that we talked about earlier, that was the longest home run of the season in all of baseball. So now it's a foot short. So not a great series for the Phils in Colorado. Came home to face the Brewers. Game 1 was a 4-2 win. Basically, the big story here, Alec Bohm, who has been doing fantastically since the night that the fans booed him, and he said, "I hate this effing place," and then owned up to it and got a standing ovation the next night. He really came through, had a 2-run single to give them the lead in the 8th, and that 3-run 8th ended up giving them a comeback win. Knievel got another save. Game 2 was a 5-3 loss. Phils were up 3-0 to start, and then Wheeler just lost command, started giving up hits, and they just came back and won 5-3. The Brewers did. Renfroe hit a home run for the Brew Crew. Wheeler went 5, gave up 7 hits, 4 earned runs. Hauser went 6, gave up 5 hits and 3 earned runs. And then we get to Game 3. Last night, Sunday Night Baseball, national television, big stage. 2 teams that have fantastic offenses, and it was a 1-0 win for the Brewers. That was the first 1-0 game at Citizens Bank Park since 2015. Christian Yelich hit a sacrifice fly in the top of the 9th for the only run. Lauer for the Brew Crew went 6, gave up 5 hits and had 13 strikeouts. Aaron Nola, the Phillies wasted an amazing start from him. 7 innings, 1 hit, 9 Ks, 8 total hits, and 8 total hits. And the story of this game should have been about the pitching duel. The story of this game is Angel Hernandez, who, even by Angel Hernandez standards, had one of the most horrible, terribly umpire games I've ever seen. And the 3 biggest calls that he missed, he always misses calls, but he missed a pitch to Andrew McCutcheon on the Brew Crew, just to show you guys that this is not just a Philly fan thing. This is a baseball fan thing. There was a pitch to McCutcheon that was well outside, and Hernandez rung Andrew McCutcheon up for strike 3. In the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th, Kyle Schwarber is up. Nobody on base, 1 out. So 1-run game, 3-2 the count, pitches low and outside, and Angel Hernandez rings him up. And we'll get to what happened after that in a moment. The worst call of the night, easily, was a pitch to Gene Segura, bases loaded, I believe 1 out at the time. 0-0 pitch, was 6 inches, over 6 inches inside. I thought it was going to end up hitting him, and Hernandez called strike 1. Next pitch was a ball. So instead of being a 2-0 count, which significantly changes the way the at-bat transpires, it was 1-1. Segura ends up popping out because he had to try and do something. Phils don't get a run in that inning. After Schwarber struck out in the ninth, and you can tell that both sides were so annoyed with Hernandez for this entire game. The ninth inning happens with Schwarber, and he slams his bat down, slams his helmet down, and he turns away from Hernandez to do so. And he just starts screaming, and you then see Hernandez tossed him, which you knew was going to happen. But I loved his tirade, the tirade that Schwarber had. He was telling him, you missed outside, you missed here, you missed up. And he's like, you missed it for both teams. He was fighting for the players, not just himself. And the reaction across like social media and even on the broadcast, they were all in support of Schwarber because Angel Hernandez is just he's easily the worst umpire that this sport has ever known. And that's even like worse than Joe West, worse than Jim Joyce. You know, like this guy should not be a major league umpire. There is absolutely zero accountability in this league. And the reason for this, Austin, to answer your question that you posed earlier, the reason that he still has a job is only because of the umpire union. The MLB does not have control over this. It is all the union, because the moment that MLB tries to do something to Angel Hernandez about this, the union comes in. So instead you have somebody who's absolutely terrible for the game doing this. And I'm going to flip over my sheet here because I have some stats for you about Angel Hernandez and this game, especially from last night. So last night, Angel Hernandez had 88% accuracy. And yeah, Austin, absolutely. Kyle Schwarber, he spoke for all of baseball. And I love it. I love him for it. I'm so glad he's on my team. And the thing that drives me nuts right now is that there are people who are saying, well, it was too close to take. You need to swing at that. No, you don't. A ball is a ball. It doesn't matter what the umpire's strike zone is. A ball is a ball. You can't be telling people that they basically need to play the show and swing at every single pitch. I do that. So like, you're basically telling players that they need to swing at pitches that are not strikes, and that is not the player's responsibility. The players in this game have really good eyes. They can tell when a pitch it should be a ball, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Angel Hernandez had 88% accuracy last night. The average for major league umpires is usually between about 93 and 95% accuracy. 77% strike accuracy. So 1 in 4 pitches that he called a strike last night was a ball. 11 out of the 48 called strikes were balls last night. He missed 19 calls behind the plate. And 6 of the batters struck out on pitches that were outside the zone because he just called them strikes. Angel Hernandez has been consistently and historically garbage, and there's still no accountability for him. And the thing with this is, I mean, and even there is a video of fans yelling at him after the game as he's leaving, and he's driving this car, and he grins at them. Like, he knows he's bad, and he does nothing about it. And one thing, first of all, for somebody that blind, I don't know how he can drive a car. Like, I mean, Angel Hernandez is so bad, he probably thinks Ben Simmons is a good teammate. Angel Hernandez is so bad, he probably would have voted for Jokic as the NBA most valuable player. Angel Hernandez probably roots for the iceberg in Titanic. Like, this guy should not be a Major League Baseball umpire. He should just not be involved in the game at all. And I can't get over how bad he is. I'm not saying that the Phillies should have won the game last night because it was a fantastic pitcher's duel. But Angel Hernandez should not be the star of a game. He wouldn't have even seen the Titanic. Yeah. But like he should not be, umpires should not be the stars of the game. And NBC Sports even called him out for it. It was final Phillies 0, Brewers 1, player of the game, Angel Hernandez. Like, the game is not about the umpires. It is about the players, and it is about like the fans and everything. And Angel Hernandez just doesn't see it. He feels the need to just be the person in charge of the entire game, and he needs to be held accountable.
All right. So
Yeah, that's all I got right now.
Since you started talking, Jason, Angel Hernandez has missed 6 more calls.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I mean,
you know,
we've talked about Angel Hernandez. Like, none of us, and I think baseball fans in general, just can't stand him. And it's not because, like, it's nothing about him himself. It's because he's just so bad at his job. Like, Angel Hernandez is so bad at his job, he makes weathermen look accurate.
Oh man. You know, and the funny thing is, just 2 games prior, he's out at second base, and personally, I think it was a correct call. Kutch slid directly at Segura breaking up the double play, and he correctly called runner interference and called both the batter and Kutch it out. And yet, when you get him behind home plate, he can't see shit.
Like, I don't mind him in the field. He's not terrible in the field, and he needs to basically, the accountability for this is he needs to not be he's either not call games from behind the plate, or he needs to not be in the league. Those are 2 things. I don't even think umpire school will make a difference. I believe I forget who it was that posted this on Twitter, but the phrase was Angel Hernandez wouldn't even be able to see the E at the top of the vision charts at the eye doctor. Like, I just don't understand how he just continuously gets away with being the worst umpire that we have ever seen.
I don't know about worst. On the page, Jeremy Richardson brought up Eric Gregg from 97. Very fair point. Ken Kaiser, he made some. You guys might not know too much about him because he was a primarily AL ump. Was one of the umps who actually lost his job, thankfully, when the ump strike happened and was not rehired by baseball. But Ken Kaiser made some very interesting calls over the years, shall we say, as well. I mean, bad umpiring, it's a part of the game, unfortunately, until we go to a fully robotic strike zone, which even as we saw it,
game last night,
Atlantic League, even as we saw in the Atlantic League, it's not 100% accurate. There were some missed calls. The umpire had the authority to overrule the robot and chose not to do so. So it's not perfect.
Yeah, and I'm not one overall for the robo umps and whatnot, but if there was ever a case for robo umps, last night is going to be Exhibit A.
Yeah, Angel Hernandez is the case for robo umps. Anybody else behind the plate is not nearly as bad. At Codify Baseball, Angel Hernandez has missed over 2,600 ball and strike calls in the last 7 years. And I wish that was a joke. It's not a joke. On Twitter, to see some of these bad umpire calls, welcome to the show is one. It's hilarious. So just to see just how bad some of these calls are, it's really quite unique. That would be one I would follow if I were you. Scorecards is one we all look at for our fans out there. That's one that you really get to see just how bad these umps are off the good strike zone or the regular strike zone, I guess you want to call it.
And Austin makes a good point here. Some umpires, they're going to shade one way or they're going to shade the other. But then there's this. Angel's strike zone is utterly unpredictable how he's going to call it, other than the fact that he is going to call it badly. Now, that said, yeah, you're right. The worst missed call of the night, I think, was that Segura strike. No question about it. That said, the Schwarber strikeout, that was close enough. When I was playing, Jason, hold on a second. When I was playing Little League, the one thing my coaches always pushed hard on us was don't let the umpire decide the game. If it's close on a 2-strike count, take a crack at it, foul it off, and get another pitch. Now, I understand what you're saying, Jason. I do. That was clearly a ball. It should have been called a ball. But at the same time, that wasn't an egregious strike 3 to me. Not compared to some of his bad misses over the course of the night. That wasn't an egregious miss.
I'm not going to say that it was an egregious miss, but it was a miss that impacted the game, and a ball is a ball. Exactly what Austin just said, if he called a pitch consistently, like if he called that a strike consistently, fine, but he didn't. And there's a big difference, Andrew, between Little League and Major League Baseball. Little League, you're getting a lot of fundamentals down. And yes, you're trying to tell kids to protect at the plate. These Major League hitters know what balls and strikes are. They should not have to adjust to an umpire, especially one that just calls whenever he feels like a ball. Like whenever he thinks he just wants to call a strike, he'll call a strike. It doesn't matter where it is. So that argument to me is not accurate for this situation, because the fact of the matter is it was a ball. It should have been called as such, and Schwarber should have been on first base in the 9th inning.
Austin, that's another good point, though. You're always going to have a time where an umpire is going to call a relatively close pitch that's more than a ball than a strike. I know. Jason, I think, honestly, I think we're both right about this. I do. That's close enough that I feel like you do need to protect. That's close enough that you can just throw your bat on it, knock it foul, get another pitch. But
there's no way for him to foul that pitch off, though. That pitch was down and outside. There's no way in hell that any left-handed pitcher, any left-handed batter will be able to hit that pitch and foul it off.
I'm sorry. I've seen plenty of left-handed hitters that dive out over the plate that could poke that foul. I watched Joey Votto do it in the only series the Reds have been fucking successful in so far this year.
Not that type of pitch from that hitter. There's no way that especially like a left-handed batter in that situation should be expected to foul one off just because the umpire might blow the call. Hitters should not be adjusting to umpires. Umpires should be calling balls and strikes properly.
They should. They won't, because they're humans. They're not robots.
And I get that. But to me, saying that Schwarber is at fault because he didn't swing to try and foul it off is ridiculous.
I don't think Schwarber's at fault for not swinging.
You just said that he should have swung to try and foul it off. He shouldn't have. It was ball 4.
Jason, I'm saying he should be protecting the plate in that situation. I think it should have been ball 4 too. I do. And I absolutely agree with every reason he decided to go ranting on Angel. That set, like I said, I don't think that particular pitch was so egregious of a miss compared to some of the other misses he's had. We
But
see
it's still a
we
miss.
see umpires miss that close to the plate a lot. Not just Angel. We see that across almost every umpire, almost every game. We're going to see at least one strike that's just an inch or two off the plate that should be called a ball that gets called a strike. Whether it's from the catcher framing the pitch, which let's face it, catchers have gotten extremely good at framing pitches and completely fooling umpires. And we've also seen cases that I have seen multiple Braves games over the last couple of years. The pitcher missed the catcher's spot. The ball was actually a strike, but it was called a ball because the catcher had to move to get the ball. Karen nailed it right. Karen really nailed it. It's hard to adjust when you have no clue what the reference is because, like Austin said, there is no reference with Angel Hernandez. And yes, the frustration is 100% accurate. I will not deny at all.
Yeah, and that's exactly why there was no reason for Schwarber to even try to foul that off. There's, I will go to my grave saying that Schwarber should have taken that the entire way.
Sure.
There's no there. I get that it wasn't as bad of a call as everything else, but when you have no idea what you're getting from Angel Hernandez, how are you supposed to even know? If he's calling that a strike the entire night, fine. But he wasn't. He was calling strikes whenever he felt like it. He has no frame of
strikes
reference.
farther off the strike zone than that strikes, which kind of makes me think, hey, if it's even close, I need to take a stab at it because God knows if I'll actually see anything in the zone to take a stab at.
Yeah,
which isn't right either.
And I mean, and if it what maybe I would think that way if it wasn't a full count, because if it's like 2-1 or something like that, fine. Take a swing if you think it's there. But I don't know. For me, the fact of the matter is it was a ball, and he called it a strike, and he shouldn't have. And Angel Hernandez is pure umpiring trash and needs to not be in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we're on agreement with every single one of those counts. I just, like I said, that wasn't a horrible missed call. Not like the Segura.
Yes, it was.
Jason, you're only saying that because it was the ninth inning towards the end of the game. If that
it had an impact, of course, it's a horrible missed call. It had a negative impact on the outcome of the game. How can you say that's not a horrible missed call when it's a horrible missed call?
It's bad. I wouldn't call it horrible. Not like the Segura pitch. That's horrible. Go ahead, Joe.
No, the Segura pitch was awful. I agree with Jason. A ball is a ball, and we shouldn't have to, to think about that. But I do think that there's some truth to both parts of that. I don't know. I mean, Angel Hernandez is so bad. David Ross should be manager of the year. That's how bad Angel Hernandez is. To me, it's disappointing that, like you said, the umpire is the story in this game and not the fact that you had an amazing pitcher's duel. The highlight of that ejection is the second highlight, other than Schwarber going ballistic, is the look on Hader's face when he walks away back to the mound. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got one."
Oh yeah, Hader 100% knew he got away with that one.
and I think but there's a reason that there were so many strikeouts last night.
There's a reason it was a pitcher's duel last night. I mean,
a good part of that, a good part of those strikeouts, yes, can be attributed to the pitchers. But like I mentioned earlier, there were 6 batters that were called out on strikes that were actually outside of the strike zone. You had Schwarber, you had McCutchen, Hernandez just needs to go. He's killing the game with whenever he umpires behind the plate.
I mean, the league average is in the low 90s for called strike accuracy. I think his average for called strike accuracy is in the mid to low 80s, which is garbage.
Especially when you look at what the average for MLB other umpires is between 93 and 95%.
I just said that.
Yeah, like no, sorry, I was looking over my thing because I mentioned it earlier. So
gotcha.
I was just looking back over at my papers, so I zoned out for a second there. But like I can't, like, there's that phrase like I can't even, and with Angel Hernandez, I can't even.
I mean, it would be one thing if that was the worst call of the night. It's a totally different thing when it's stacked up with all of those other bad calls. Like if that was the only call that he got wrong, I'm not too bitter about that one because that's close.
Yeah.
But because he's so bad throughout the game, every call he makes is under a microscope, and every call he makes in a big spot like that looks even worse.
Yeah, and you could even see it from both sides when they were all at the plate and there were calls that were clearly bad. You could just see it in the body language of both of them, like both teams when they were batting. And the reason that they didn't say anything, and this is the reason, I know people are going kind of after Joe Girardi for and Craig Counsell for not standing up. The reason that they didn't say anything until Schwarber's blow up in the ninth inning is because you so much as give Angel Hernandez a dirty look and he'll throw you out.
Yeah.
And
that you can't, no matter who the umpire is, you can't argue that, or you're going to get tossed automatically.
Right. Yeah, that's an automatic ejection, is arguing balls and strikes.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Angel, like, you couldn't even ask Angel Hernandez about it. Like, you turn around and give him a bad look, you're gone, whether you say something or not.
Yeah.
And the reason, the only reason that I think Schwarber blew up in the ninth is because it was a ninth inning. He's most likely not getting another at bat. He's not going to necessarily be needed in the field because it was a second out. So he had nothing to lose. So why not speak for all of baseball?
Yeah. And again, it was one of the more entertaining ejections I think we're going to see out of any player all year. Let's be honest.
Now where does that blow up rank in major league ejections? I mean, that was pretty wild. That was pretty epic.
I mean, for this year so far, it's probably number one all time. It was a good one. I don't think it's top 10 all time, to be completely honest with you. I mean, Earl Weaver by himself can fill out the top 10. So could Bobby Cox. Lou Piniella could absolutely fill up a whole bunch.
I think it depends. For me, it's based off of the reasoning for it. You see some of the other tirades, happen after bad calls and whatnot, but the managers and players at that time are fighting more for themselves or their team, whereas Schwarber's probably goes up there as one of my favorites for the sole fact that he basically was screaming for all the fans of the game itself. Like, he was telling Angel Hernandez what everybody else was thinking. So I think that's probably why that's one of my favorites. But as far as overall blow-ups,
Phil Wilhelm.
Yeah, I don't think it's up there just because he did not, like, he wasn't throwing Rosenbag grenades and like taking first base and walking off with it, but I love that he stood up for the game itself last night.
Yeah. Yeah. Wilhelm will probably always be number one all time. The Rosin grenade will forever immortalize him as for all time rants, I think. Looking over at the post, which Jason, I know you put that up last night. We had a lot of comments on this. Dan Barnes, he's a joke so bad. Like, how can he do this year in and year out and still have a job? If I sucked at my job that bad, I would get fired. Yeah, and Matt Light, he made a good point. Brewers had the same strike zone as well, but Angel Hernandez is still a joke. Jason, I'll be nice and skip the other parts of those comments. Matt Libby says literally the reason computer called balls and strikes is coming. And yeah, that's probably true. Like I said, Jeremy Richardson, the 97 Eric Gregg flashbacks. Our buddy Big Jim from Huddle Up, calling this a strike shouldn't be fireable. Human error is a thing. However, when an umpire is as bad as Angel has been for years, he should have already been gone. And yeah, that's really what it boils down to, is the utter inconsistency that we've seen out of Angel for all of these years. And we don't even have to pick last night. You could literally just randomly pick any 5-10 games that Angel Hernandez has been the home plate umpire in his career, and it's he might have one or two decent ones in there. Blind squirrel can find an acorn sometimes, but the bad games way outweigh the good games, and it's just with Angel, it's just not even close. And yeah, I wish I could say, hey, we won't have to deal with him forever, but I just he's young enough. I don't know when the hell he's going to retire, and baseball's not going to fire him. That's very, very apparent, even though the MLB Ump Association is not nearly as powerful as the Players Association, but they have just enough to keep Angel in the job, even though let's face it, he really shouldn't be anymore. All right, you guys, any more rants about Angel? Any more one-liners about Angel? All right. Let's stick
I'm all
Angel
tapped out.
kind of like Angel trying to call it a pitch accurately. All right, let's move on. All right, for my hot players of the week, I had a couple. I had Ty France from Seattle. He had 7 runs, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 500, 552, 885 slash line this week. As much as it pains me to say this, I had Jazz Chisholm Jr. on here as well. He scored 4 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 273, 304, 591 slash line. Charlie Blackmon had a great week. He had 8 runs scored, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, steal, 444, 500, 833 slash line. And Byron Buxton, I think, is the other guy I'm going to put on there. 5 runs, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 539, 607 hits, 1.308 slash line. Those are my top 4 guys for the week. Honestly, there was a lot of really good hitting this past week. There are quite a few other guys you could sneak in there as well. Joe, anybody else for you you're going to put on the hot hitter list?
Well, Jazz Chisholm, he's fun to watch. I think his Euro step home run, coming to the home plate with the Euro step, I think that's pretty fun to watch. It's neat, something different. I had those 2. I had Buxton. The other one I had was Taylor Ward, and I'm gonna do this with, like I do with pitching. To quote Moneyball, he gets on base. 6 walks this week. I think that's more walks than Javi had in his entire career as a Cub. So
we're not counting IBBs, right, for Javi, right?
No, of course not. 6 hits, 4 runs, a double, 1 RBI. Again, those numbers aren't eye-popping, but 545 on base, 6 walks, that's awesome. That gets you in a position to let guys like Trout and Ohtani do something behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do some damage that way.
Hat tip to him for the most walks this week.
Jason, anybody else for you?
No, I'll be honest. I spent most of my energy fighting against Angel Hernandez this week, so I didn't really get to dive too far into all of those stats this week.
Yeah, I'll toss one more honorable mention up. Freddie. Freddie's starting to come alive, and of course it would happen against Atlanta because that's just how baseball works sometimes. All right, looking at the pitchers. For me, I had a couple. I've got Eric Lauer. He had 1 win with 2 quality starts. He had 18 strikeouts in 12 innings, which is just insane. 0.75 ERA and a whip of 1. He only walked 2 guys, too, over the past week, which is utterly insane. Shane McClanahan pitched really well for the Royals, a win in 2 quality starts. He had 16 strikeouts, a 2.08 ERA, 0.77 whip. I'm also going to throw Aaron Nola on the list because it's about time Nola, even though he didn't get the wins, it's about time Nola finally is starting to look like old Nola again. He had 13 strikeouts in 12 innings, 146 ERA, .73 whip. And then the other guy I put on there, I almost put Fried on, but I'm actually going to put Kyle Wright on. We all know what Max Fried can do when he's really on, but Kyle Wright, he was the 5th overall pick back in I would say the 17, I think it was the 2017 draft. And it's just been, he's had a tough time getting things all together, but in his one start to strike out 11 guys, set a new career high. He had a .83 whip for the week. And like I mentioned earlier, his ERA is down near the 1 level right now on the season. I mean, granted, I know it's only 3 starts and he's going to get hit at some point, but I really love seeing it out of a young guy he's bounced back and forth between the majors and AAA and actually spent most of the year last year in AAA. And it looks like he's finally getting it together. And I really like to see that. Jason, any other pitchers for you?
No, you actually covered, especially the two that I was looking at in Lauer and Nola. Just last night alone was fantastic for both of them. It's truly a shame that they didn't get better hits from the rest of their team, but we won't go backwards. It was I loved the way that those two pitched last night was fantastic.
Yeah, truly. Joe, any regular pitchers before we hit the adulting relief pitcher of the week?
No, I don't think so. I'm again happy with the way Hendricks pitched on Saturday, but outside of that, you covered anybody who really pitched well this week from a starting standpoint. As far as relievers go, I have 4. There is a common theme here. They're either Cub killers or former Cubs tonight. So I mean, let someone else rag on the Cubs more than I do. So it only seemed fitting. Bednar for Pittsburgh went 3 1/3 this week, 3 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, a .79 whip, a 138 batting average against just this weekend against the Cubs. Will Crow for Pittsburgh 1-0 this week, 3 1/3 I think, or 4 innings pitched, and it was 4 hits, no runs, 6 strikeouts. His year numbers so far: Will Crow 13 1/3, 7 hits, 1 hit batter, 4 walks, 16 strikeouts, 8.83 whip, and a 152 batting average against. So Will Crow is doing a lot of good things for Pittsburgh. Aroldis Chapman 3 for 3 in save opportunities, 3 innings, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, and then Josh Hader. Sorry, Jason. 4 for 4 in save opportunities this week. 4 innings pitched, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts, a .25 whip, and a 0.77 batting average against. He was dominant and efficient. So,
yeah, he always is, especially against lefties. I mean, I brought it up during the postseason run last year. Freddie Freeman was the first left-handed batter to hit a home run off Hader in a couple years. I mean, the guy just dominates left-handed hitters. It's ridiculous. All right, my hot teams for the week. I've got the Yankees, the Twins, and the Twins are an interesting choice. I know it's not a great past 10. I think they're only 6-4 in the past 10. But with the White Sox absolutely tanking, they're on a 4-game winning streak right now. So they're making the best of the opportunity available to them. I also have the Mariners, the Mets, the Brewers, and what seems like it'll be a perennial choice this year, the Dodgers and the freaking Giants. Jason, any other hot teams for you? Joe?
no, it's hard to argue with that. I think the Mets they took 3 or 4 from the Giants in the first part of the week, and 2 out of 3 at Arizona. So they did what they had to do to keep themselves in first place long enough to lose it. The Brewers, winning 5 out of 6 was a good week for them. Again, the Twins, like you said, it's kind of a touchy one, but I think sweeping the White Sox, taking that one on Monday from Boston, and 1 of 3 in Kansas City is a good week. I'd take that any day.
Yeah. Like I said, when the team that's projected to win 90 plus games and destroy your division is on a 7-game skid, if you can't take advantage of that, you're not doing something right. All right, so looking at the upcoming week, we've got Braves Cubbies this week to open up starting tomorrow night. The matchups are going to be Fried versus Stroman, Morton versus Leiter Jr., and Wright versus Smiley. And then the Braves go on the road to Texas, 3 at the Rangers, Anderson versus Howard, Elder versus Dunning, and Fried versus Hearn. The Cubbies, after the Braves, they go on the road to the Brew Crew, Hendricks versus Hauser, Steele versus Lauer, Stroman versus Burns. Phillies this week, Ford versus the Rockies, because I guess we're just going to get the Rockies out of the way early this year. Gibson versus Freeland, Eflin versus Marquez, Suarez versus to be announced later, and Wheeler versus Senzatella. And then 3 at the Mets, Nola versus McGill, Gibson versus Scherzer, Eflin versus Bassett. You know, Joe, it's going to be a fun, stressful week for the two of us. I honestly can't give you a fair freaking prediction for which Braves and which Cubs teams are going to show up for any of these games. I like our pitching matchups a little bit more than yours because we've got both Fried and Wright going. Morton, who the hell knows what's going on with him right now. Plus, I will always jump at the opportunity to take some free shots at Drew Smiley. I watched so many teams do that last year. It's nice to be on the other end of it. Although now they say that, watch the bastard throw a freaking 2-hitter or some bullshit like that. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm like you. I think the pitching matchups favor you guys quite a bit. I think it'll be interesting to see what Cub team shows up this week offensively. If they're the ones who can get a ton of hits throughout the game, or if they just get 3 or 4 here, or 5 here, 6 here. This week was kind of the lowest they've been for run scoring, other than Saturday. Since the season started, they've been scoring 4, 5, 6 runs every game. So they're producing a lot of runs. We'll see if they can do that against a team like the Braves. I'm not too optimistic this week. I think they pick one of each of those series, maybe. I don't think they're going to get more than one out of each series in this week with the Braves and the Brew Crew.
Yeah, and Jason, this could either be a pretty decent week for the Phillies because theoretically at home, if the Phillies decide to not play down to their competition like they have a tendency to do, with these pitching matchups, you would think they should at least be able to split the series with the Rockies. I'm going to be honest with you, going up to New York, I don't like your matchups other than maybe Nola versus McGill, because theoretically McGill should come back down to earth at some point. Not that we've seen any indication of that happening, but Gibson, Scherzer, Eflin, Bassett, I got to tell you, I don't like those matchups for the Phillies at all.
And the week's starting out pretty good. Phils ended up winning tonight 8-2. So it's a good start to the week, especially the series against the Rockies. The thing with the Mets-Phillies series is you never know what's going to happen. On paper, it doesn't look great, but it's still the Mets-Phillies rivalries. I tell you what, though, the series that I'm really interested in this week, none of them are actually divisional series because, our teams are having really big rivalry games. So, but there's 3 series that I want you guys to really look at this week because I think it'll be interesting. The Mariners are at the Rays to start the week. And also to start this week, the Mets are at the Cardinals, which is kind of an interesting matchup. And then later this week, for me, the big series is going to be Astros at the Blue Jays.
Yeah, if the Astros are going to start to turn things around, they need to show that they can do it against teams that can match up with them hit for hit. And if there's any team in the American League that you should be worried about matching you hit for hit, it's the freaking Blue Jays. That team can rake. Vlad Jr., we've gone on and on about him. I don't know how many times already and how many podcast episodes, but Bichette Jr., he's coming alive right now. There's just There's not much of a break anywhere in that lineup right now, the way all those guys are hitting. So that's, yeah, I think you're right, Jason. That's definitely a series to watch. Uh, I don't know that the Astros are going to take more than a game, maybe two in that series, but I wouldn't even be surprised if the Blue Jays say, nah, we're just going to sweep this. It wouldn't shock me, honestly. All right, guys, anything else? Joe, you're good. Jason, you're good. All right. So, folks, you can find the audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Amazon Music, and Spreaker. You can see us live on our YouTube channel, on Facebook Live, and on Twitter. You can find the merchandise at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on the Facebook page, facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. On our Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. And Joe's at JoltonJoe35. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast, LLC, and we are sponsored by Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. May your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good week, everybody.